Welcome back to Be the Good with Kate, the show that inspires each of us to see how we have the power to make a difference all around us. Each episode highlights an individual doing good in the world while following their passions, good for their own souls and for others. I get so excited about sharing each and every episode of Be the Good with you, and I hope you enjoy these people and stories. If you're new here, welcome, and if you are returning, thank you so much for your support. I'm so glad you found Be the Good with Kate and would love to hear from you. If you're finding value in these episodes, I invite you to share with someone who could also use this dose of good news, or tag me on social with your favorite quote from the episode. Every share, subscriber, review, and comment helps me to share these guests' wonderful work to more people. Thank you for your help in this. Now, on to this week's episode. Let's spread a little more goodness in the world. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Eddy Smits here on Be the Good with Kate. He was a professional artist for 22 years and has a long and beautiful history as a hospital clown, visiting over 10,000 sick and palliative children. He's also a TEDx speaker, an NLP practitioner and coach, and as his bio states, being a hospital clown led him to transfer into an expert in authentic communication and develop an innovative approach using the basic principles of a hospital clown to improve happiness, leadership, and fulfillment. He asked questions like, what if we start treating children like our peers, like a clown would? And what would happen if we use the attitudes of a clown in a real world? It may help us to be playful again and stop taking ourselves so seriously. In coaching, Eddy uses techniques from being a clown and interacting with children, and this translates into anyone who works with children as a career. So I'm so excited to hear more. Eddy, thanks for being here today.
You're welcome. This was without a doubt the best introduction I ever had. So thank you for that.
Well, how about that? Well, I have to tell everyone, you made it really easy for me, because once you start looking up Eddy Smits, you find all sorts of great videos, great information. And it was hard to stop myself from going down that rabbit hole and just keep going, reading and watching, because it is such a fascinating thing, especially just how you've combined this, something that seems so very narrow, right? Going like being a hospital clown, like a very specific skill set, and you've made it into this whole career and how you've helped so many people. So before we get into too much, please just tell me everything else I left out about who you are and what you do in your own words.
You did leave much out. So I'm originally from Belgium. I live in Nigeria for the moment, but I'm Belgian. And I started my career started as a teacher. That was the beginning of my professional career. I loved working with children. Didn't like the structure. Couldn't be creative as a teacher. So I literally, at some point, told my parents I want to be a clown. That was a little bit of a surprise. But I did start out before that as a puppeteer, actually, making theater for children as a puppeteer. But I got into this clowning, it at some point it fascinated me so much, especially the old movies like Laurel and Hardy and Buster Keaton and stuff, how they could make people laugh without sound, without saying anything, just by doing things. And I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be a clown. I didn't know what, didn't know how, didn't know anything about clowning. So I had to learn from scratch and had to learn from courses that was pre-internet, that was like, let me think, that was beginning early 90s, even end 80s. So there was no internet. There was nothing like it. So it was, I was searching hard. And at some point you found something and you began to go into this clowning. And then I was like in 4 or 5 years in, when I thought I started to get the hang of it. I got contacted by somebody in Belgium here who wanted to start with clowns visiting hospitals. And in America, it existed. You had Patch Adams who started it with you guys. So he did it already a few years by then. But in Belgium, nobody did it. So 2 clowns were chosen to do it out of a lot of clowns. And I was the lucky one. I was one of the 2. But I really didn't know. I mean, I could clown. I came to children's party and all this stuff. But then we went to hospitals and we asked, okay, what do we do or how do we do it? And these guys, the organization, they got some money together and they started it and said, we don't know, just do your thing. So we didn't really know what to expect. And the first months were really hard, because hospital clowning is a totally different animal as normal clowning, because sick children, they react in a totally different way than children who are healthy. When you enter a party or when you come on stage with healthy children, you're the light of the party and everybody starts laughing and shouting. You actually don't have to do anything. But in hospitals, these children are scared. They are in pain. At the last years of my career, I did palliative children, so they know they are about to die, sometimes literally within the week. So that's another kind of thing. And we soon found out that, my colleague and me back then, we soon found out that the difference was that it wasn't about us. You know, when you come in a party, it's about you, and everybody start to point their attention on you. But in hospitals, it's about the sick child. And we had to really think different and work different, and had to work hard in the beginning to connect with them, because most of the time they started crying. We didn't know what to do, and the things we did as a normal clown just didn't work. So the first months were really were challenging, but were fun, but challenging. And at some point we got the heck of it. We got it under control, and we knew how, and we explored, and then it went up. The organization started with 2 clowns, and within 10 years we were 13 clowns. So yeah, but the beauty of the whole thing is that this hospital clowning totally changed my life. So at some point, I started to ask myself, okay, I felt that the things that I did to connect with children, and all the things I did in a hospital room, to, especially at the end of my career, hospital clown career with the palliative children, is I started to use these things in my normal life, in my business, in my normal life. And I found out there are some kind of universal truth. I mean, one of the things is a clown gets his success by failing, right? So when the clown fails, the audience laughs. So when he stumbles, which is failing, you laugh. And if you pull this to real life, you know, the more you fail, the closer you are to your success. And if you keep on failing, success is inevitable. And that's one of the things, that's one of the principles that you can just revert to your life, to your business, to everything. And well, I've brought it down to 20 of these principles. I'm not going to tell all 20 of them, but that was the insight I got at some point. And well, then in 2015, I got a burnout. I was performing 22 years on stage, off stage, one-on-ones, hospital, everything you want. And I got a serious burnout. I was like out for 2 years. And, you know, I did something with my passion for 22 years. It was all I had was my passion, through all in. And then at some point, there was nothing. It was like, what are we going to do? What am I going to do? Fortunately, I started coaching. I started out as a life coach, then a career coach. That was like learning people to do what they loved. But now I'm very happy that I'm back to basics because I've also found out that when you coach people, you can also use these principles. So it's so back to business at this point for me. Yeah, it's like the circle for me is again round, and I'm starting to do this work again with these principles of the clown, and I love it. I reach a lot of people. Yeah, it's doing the good thing, right? That's why I love the title of your podcast so much.
Well, thank you.
So that's the story. That's the story.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I love what you said too about how basically 2 different but not so different career choices, you know, going from the clowning world to the coaching world and putting them together. And that is, it's a theme that's come up a lot with guests too, of that idea of each step of the way, our career may change. Like it's never just one thing for our whole life, but they all feed into each other, over
Yeah.
time. And it looks like you've had this brilliant way now of tying it all together for
Yeah.
this next step. I want to go back real quick before we move on. The first time you went into a hospital, do
Yeah.
you remember that feeling, and just how did you prepare, not knowing, not having anything to base this on? You set foot in a hospital as a clown, not even as yourself, and you were faced with sick children. Can you paint that picture of that day?
Yeah. The thing, and this is going to be funny, funny in a not funny way. The thing we had the most difficulty with were the doctors and the nurses.
Ah.
Yeah. It took 3 to 4 years before they accepted us in the hospital. There was a lot of resistance from them. So I remember the first time we came in the hospital, we get like this faces. Oh, what are they coming to do here? What's this now? Clowns in hospital? Are they crazy? Like this kind of attitude, literally. So that was the thing that struck me most when my first visit. And going into the room, it was some rooms went good, some rooms went bad. Children started crying, and you couldn't get them out of their crying. So that there it started. And I remember I called my colleague, the other one, because I went first. No,
Thrown
I don't
into
know
the
why.
wolves.
I went first, and I said to him, his name was Ludo. He passed away in the meantime, but okay. And yeah, so I said to him, Ludo, I said, don't expect too much, man. I mean, don't expect too much, because he was clowning he was clowning like maybe 15 years already. So he was much older than me then, still is. I mean, and that's what I literally said to him. Don't expect too much. And he couldn't understand that until he went in, of course, and also had something like, okay, what's this now? This is not working. This is, but yeah, we had to learn the hard way. But it has something, when you are the first one doing stuff, it has something, you can't fail anyway, because you're the first doing it, and there's no comparison. People can't compare you with somebody else. So that's the lucky thing. But again, that's what struck me the most in the beginning. But I must say, after a few years, the acceptance was really there. That started with the nurses. They saw very soon that what we did was more than just making funny faces. And so, just to give you an example, I was at some point I was in a room, and a child had to get shot, had to get a shot, and I was crying and screaming, and the parents couldn't get it down. So I came into that room because I heard the screaming. I said, okay, let's check it out. And I checked it out. And so when I came in, the kid calmed a little bit, but was still so afraid of this syringe. And then I just stepped in, and I said to the nurse, give me this. And I pretended like I put it in my arm, and I started to laugh. Woo, this is funny. And then the kid stopped crying. And so the nurse had something, that's a good trick. So the nurse took the syringe out of my hand, and put it in the child. Of course, it hurt a little bit, but it was calm. And that was the point when I came back next week. I could immediately feel the situation was changed, because all the nurses laughed. They said good morning to me. I said, oh, something has changed here. Yeah,
That's huge.
That's huge. But at the end, when I look back at it now, I've got trouble explaining that what a hospital clown does, that you can use that in real life. It's the same. People don't understand, but it's natural. It's logic that they don't understand, because they don't know what you do actually. And to finish the story, and when we were more in the beginning, when we were in a room and a doctor came in, he ordered us to go out the room, right? Yeah. But when we were playing more, some doctors even said, because I always had a white doctor's coat when I was clowning, some doctors said, hello, colleague, when they came in. And it was like, it was like that. It was acceptance. And then I just said, oh, colleague, do you want me to stay, or can I go? And most of the time, so no, just stay. I'm just doing a little examination. So, and some doctors even played along. I said, oh, I will assist you, colleague. And then it was like a game with the doctor. So that was really crazy.
I love that. And I love how you highlighted that you were the first right? There was no precedent. And doesn't that stop so many people in life from doing, fill in the blank anything, right? Well, it hasn't been done before, and people will laugh at me, right? Not being a clown, right? The not so great laugh at me, right? Or people won't like it. People won't, I don't know how to do it. And that didn't stop you. You said, well, we're just going to go in and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then even how you said, I heard crying, so I just went in to see if I could do something. You didn't know what you were going to do when you walked in. And
I
these are
didn't.
such big things. And
Yeah.
even though I don't know if it was just your gut instinct to do it, but these are like huge life lessons for people,
Yeah, but it was always like that. You of course you knew the name of the child and you knew what was wrong with it. You knew all this was necessary because that you didn't make mistakes. If just to give an example, if a child had broken his arm and it fell off a horse, okay, you could make a joke of it. But if a child had broken his arm and it was abused by anybody, then you couldn't make a joke. Then or the joke had to be different. So you had to know these little things. You had to know, but every door that opened was an adventure because you never knew how they will react. You never knew how the parents would react. Mostly the parents were there in the room. A 2-year-old, never know what was going to happen. They could start. Most of them started crying their lungs out. But okay, that's and in the beginning, this we couldn't deal with it. But after a few years, it didn't matter what their reaction was. At the end, they were laughing, and yeah, sometimes I got them so far that they were literally peeing their pants. So,
well, I love the story you said about the one who was afraid of a shot. Do you have any more of those good news stories that you'd like to share?
I have so many. I'll tell you the one I always tell because that's the one that's changed my life. So that was it was a girl, 8 or 9, and doctor said she had maximum 1 week to live, right? Yeah, and it started for me. I couldn't get into the room because the parents wouldn't let me. They literally said, we have enough problems now. We don't need a clown now. We don't need it because the whole family is in the room and you're not, actually they didn't say it literally, but they said, you're not welcome. And I could have given up there, but I didn't. So I told them, look, I'm not going in only for your child. I'm going in for the family. I'm going in for you because this is something you are going to, this is going to help you for the rest of your life. Of course, I took a chance because I didn't know, right? But what I did know was whatever was going on in the room, I could make a difference there. That I did know. So I went in and the atmosphere was really bad. The shades were down, so it was a little bit dark. The whole family was there, like 10 people in the room. Most of them are crying. But the funny thing is the child just sat on the bed and she was just looking around a little bit. That was a little bit off for me. So I just went in and sat beside her. Everyone was looking at me like, what's he doing here? But okay. So I just sat beside her. And at some point, I did nothing. And it seemed like an eternity, right? Yeah. So I had to do something. So I asked her, do you know why everybody is so sad in this room? Right? As a clown. I was just curious. And then she said, no, I don't know. And that pulled me off a little. But I kept in my role and I said, okay, why is that? So she says, my parents told me that when I die, I will sleep forever. And I said, yeah, that's actually true, right? You'll sleep forever. And then she said, well, then I really don't know why everybody is so sad because sleeping is my favorite thing to do. Yeah.
Oh.
So that girl changed my life. I got a totally different perspective on children. The thing was, when she said that, it stayed quiet for maybe, I can't know how long, maybe 10 seconds. And then there was really a sigh of relief. And there was a smile. Some people started to smile. They started to talk to each other. They opened the windows. I'm serious now. They opened the windows, started to talk with the child. I said, okay, this is my cue. So as a clown, I was gone. I said, I did my work here.
Wow.
And until this day, I still get a Christmas card of these parents. Until this day. 3 days later, 3 days later, the child died.
Mm.
Yeah. So I did make a difference for the family and the parents. Yeah, I mean, this is of course a story that is really true to me and really close with me. But it's all these visits you do. At some point, you touch something, and you, yeah. At some point, I was in a mall, and I think a fellow of 18, I think it was 20 even, comes up to me and says, "Hey, I know you." I say, "Oh, okay, right. Yeah, you visited me when I was in hospital. That hospital. Yeah, it was so nice." And then he started talking about it. So, like more than 10 years after the visit, he still remembered it vividly what I did, and of course I forgot a long time ago. But
Yeah, they do. It all does apply. How you're now coaching with people and finding all these principles, because there's just, as hearing you talk about these things, I'm thinking, oh, that makes me think of, in life when this happens and when that happens, and just the idea of being there for someone, even when you don't know what you're going to say. Now, tell me more about, now that you are going into coaching and you have been working with people who work with children, what has that been like? What kind of different, maybe learning curves and different challenges, transferring the skills to something new? Anything that you'd like to
yeah.
share from that?
So let me first say this: parents, children. I'm growing out of that. I'm going to tell you why. I'll tell that first. Because my vision is, I need to, if I want to change something with children, I need to change something with adults, because
Mm,
then it rubs off. If you change children, if you coach, for example, children, it has an effect, it has a good effect, but then they encounter adults again and it's gone. So I really need to focus on adults to help children. So that's the first thing. Um,
fantastic.
yeah. Concerning parents, which is a special kind of adults, there's one thing: they don't need to take parenting so seriously.
Mm.
Let me explain you why. Because they don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows. When I was a kid, the first phone I saw was this big thing with this dial and this horn. When you throw it too hard at somebody, you could kill somebody. That was our phone, right? Now 5-year-olds have a phone in their pocket who is more capable of doing things than the computers who sent the first rocket to the moon. We can't predict the future. We cannot. But still, we assume that we do, and we say to our children literally, don't do this, don't do that, don't go study this is not good for you, but we don't know. And if we can, a clown doesn't take things too seriously, that's not because they aren't serious. It's another thing. But if you take things too seriously, then you're going to constantly correct children, and when you correct, you don't connect. Instead of saying, uh, I use it all the time. Instead of saying, don't watch TV all the time, why don't you say, hey, I've got some games for you. Maybe we can play this. It doesn't work. Children don't hear the word no or not. We don't either it too. Let me tell you something very simple. Okay, don't think about the pink elephant.
Right. Right.
Right. Everybody thinks about.
Absolutely.
We don't hear the don't. So children too, if you say don't do this, they don't hear the don't. They don't. They just literally don't hear. And then we are angry, and then we say, "My child doesn't listen." He does listen, but you're the one that's it's doing things wrong. So that's the thing with the parents. And I'm not going to say that read parenting books and go, because they are really valuable. But at the end, when you refer it back to your children, don't take it all too serious and see what your child needs. And maybe some child needs to be educated really strictly, but another one, merely you have to let it loose. And so you have to and that's what we clowns do in hospitals. We see what's going on and we act accordingly to that. And we don't have a set of rules with which we come into rule, and we say, okay, now we're going to do this, now we're going to do this, now we're going to do this. But parents often do this with their children. Before you're 12, you're not getting a cell phone from us. Okay, that's good, but where do you get the rule? Where does it come from? these stupid things that adults push upon children, and that they don't even know where they get it. You know
Well,
what
it's
I mean?
interesting too, because there's so many other aspects of life that I feel like we get hung up on things like that, even with, oh, I won't be happy until I weigh this many pounds. Or
Exactly.
I'm if by the time I'm this age, I have to be here in my career.
Exactly.
There is, so I'm not surprised that has also, happens with talking to children. Like, we can't do this because I don't know. That's just how it is, whereas you said each individual is different, each
Yeah,
situation is different, and taking into account that particular child in that particular moment.
absolutely. We
Uh,
make ourselves unhappy. It's we that make ourselves unhappy. And it's as simple as that. And with the same energy, you can make yourself happy. It's just a choice. It's really a choice you make. And I learned that after my burnout. I learned it the hard way. I really learned it the hard way. I was miserable for 2 years, and it was my fault, my own fault.
mm,
So yeah, it's as
well,
simple as that, actually.
and then you found now this whole new.
Yeah, I found it because I jumped into things. That's how I got in Nigeria. I jumped in an adventure without knowing. I was never in Africa. I got to get shots before I get.
How long have you
I
been
was
there now?
now 4 years.
4 years. Wow.
4 years, yeah.
Wow.
So that was the end of my burnout. I just jumped into a new adventure, and see now. I mean, I didn't know what to expect here, but yeah.
it, if our conversation was a book, I'm just like highlighting. There's been so many quotable moments.
Yeah.
But I have one more question for you, Eddy. Now, if someone came to you, and maybe they even have already, and said, I want to make a difference, I want to positively impact the people around me, but I don't know where to start. Is there any
Yeah.
advice you'd give them?
Yeah. Look in the mirror.
Ooh.
Start with that one. And just be honest to yourself. Start with yourself. It's the only way. It's really the only way. It's I call it the airplane principle. You hear the stewardess say, "In case of an emergency, please put the mask on yourself first, and then help
Mm.
other people."
Yes.
It's exactly the same. You can't help other people if you have no oxygen mask. You'll die yourself. And it's the same with if you want to impact people. If that's your goal in life, right? Start yourself. And even if you don't want to impact people, start yourself, and you'll impact people automatically.
Eddy, I have so loved hearing from you today. And thank you. Please tell everyone where we can find you online, where we can learn more about your coaching and your services, and just follow you for more.
Yeah, my website is most interesting. It's eddysmits.com. Follow me on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. You'll find me.
Yes. And also, he has a TEDx talk, and
Oh
there's
yeah.
a lot of videos too that are just wonderful. So we'll have to look those up.
The TEDx talk is not out yet. I did it in
Oh,
June,
it's
but it's not out yet. But it's okay. It's okay. It will come out.
okay.
Yeah.
I saw the post about it, so we know it's coming. Maybe by the
Yeah.
time the podcast airs, I'll be able to link it in the show notes.
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Eddy, thank you for your time and for what you do.
It's really my pleasure, Kate. And again, it's so wonderful, your podcast. I love the title. Yeah, so good luck with that. Really.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to Be the Good with Kate Cherichello. Whether you're listening on YouTube or via podcast, it would mean the world if you liked, subscribed, and or left a review. You heard about the good? Now go out and be the good in your life this week. If you have stories of good news that need to be shared, please send me a message. Thanks again, and have a great week.